Welcome to a brand new episode of Impetus Podcast.
Hello, my name is Larry Pearson, Vice President and Client Partner at Impetus Technologies, where we specialize in what I like to refer to as all things data. What that means is that we help large enterprises in their journey to become data-driven enterprises, to support digital transformation, which we feel the foundation and center of that really is the data strategy. And to help the discussion today, I have with me my colleague, Hari Kotakala. Hari is responsible for working with our customers in designing solutions, but most importantly is our Director of Strategy for big data analytics, cloud migration, and related topics. So Hari, really pleased to have you with us today.
Thank you, Larry. I'm equally excited to be here and talk about what we do, how we help customers, and really looking forward for this conversation.
Yeah, outstanding. So, and all of our customers today are focused on a strategy around digital transformation. And at the center of that very often is data analytics, advanced data, positioning themselves for more and deeper data analytics and more and deeper insight into decision making. And today that almost always involves the cloud. So that's really where Hari spends his time. And our topic today is automated assessment and its impact. And as we work with these large enterprises on these very important, in fact, strategic topics, one of the very first things we find when we go in is that their enterprise data warehouse has been around for 20 years. The people who developed a lot of those workloads, a lot of those applications are long since gone. They don't always even know what all is running in the enterprise data warehouse. And they're flying blind unless we can give them insight into how best to blueprint the target environment, but also to build a roadmap from the as-is world to this transformed new modern data architecture. And to do that, we've developed an automated assessment capability, and that is our topic today. And Hari, if you want to get us kicked off, and we've been doing this, I know, for with a number of different enterprises for quite some time, and maybe you could just reflect on some of the changes we've seen as we work with these large enterprises and the importance of assessment throughout and how the focus on assessment may have changed through time. Hari Kotakala, please.
Thank you, Larry. Assessment is from a transformation perspective as we get into these projects with customers. Assessment is the first logical step and a very fundamental step for any transformation project. It does provide the current state understanding, health baseline, where one has to start, and also the outputs kind of shape the chart of the roadmap for the intended target state from a transformation initiative, whatever is the goal, right? And also, as we get into assessment, it helps kind of avoid the landmines of project failure ahead of time. And traditionally, it has been a very involved activity in the industry across projects of transformative in nature. They're actually manually intensive, taking time away from important SMEs at the customers, even the practitioners, and likewise even decision makers. Right? It's a pretty intensive activity because you want to get it right. They have to analyze mountains of artifacts that spans across data, code, and all relevant pieces in their legacy assets. And it is subjective to how well they have been maintained or not. And there are always best practices, different methods, taking help from partners in some cases, or leveraging internal know-how, and getting the right balance for quantification of ROI and the transformation objectives, and also figuring out what that whole exercise will be. Now, with growing innovation in all spheres of technology and analysis in the current day, assessment is no different. It has also shaped and has changed over time, and automation is quickly making, I think, leaps and bounds in this space. It's making this very time-consuming task relatively easy in some ways, and beyond easy, it's making it more reliable and accurate, which in a manual process also introduces a lot of human error and also ambiguity due to lack of well maintained information or clarity. So some of the features that we see with the automation is primarily on the creating accurate dependency matrix of the different pieces that are involved, both in the code and also in the different artifacts where information has to be correlated across the entire chain of things involved in a transformation project. When we talk about physical code that is involved with related to the technology stack, the automation that is available today helps to easily differentiate dead code from active code, spotting dependencies across the code value chain, all the way from to a very granular level of like identifying variables in use, identifying data elements in use, the tables, the orchestration scripts, the process lineage, and whatever technically that can be assessed and evaluated essentially. So it can be as granular as needed through the use of smart engines, which have the ability to decode or the ability to understand code the way it is in the legacy environment. Now, what that does is it helps preemptive spotting of optimal patterns that are relevant for the target environment ahead of time. Also helps identify quantum of work involved, minimizing human errors of estimation, because every aspect is actually is based on facts, and where large numbers are involved, this becomes extremely critical and uh, helps identify opportunities to apply economies of scale in a more meaningful way versus taking a swag estimate without really having the clarity of what you're up against from a transformation perspective, depending on the size of the project. And then again, the one of the core benefits of this is it translates to a manageable risk and guarantees success upfront before embarking on a transformation exercise. So that's kind of the I would say that the way assessment helps and the way it is changing today, with automation being a mainstay of that methodology.
Excellent. Very helpful description of the scope of the assessment that we do and some of the different areas that we look at, some of the outputs, and so forth. Have you seen any shift in what a customer expects from an assessment, and how have we dealt with that?
Certainly, I mean, assessment per se, I wouldn't say the shift in the assessment, but what with these transformative projects, what we see in the industry today is, if I reflect back, if I just dial back time a little bit, as we got involved into this transformation journey of helping customers. So this all started with big data, where the legacy technologies for data warehousing like Teradata and Netezas of the world uh, were quickly being compared against the evolving big data stacks that were coming up, like technologies like Hadoop, Apache Storm, Spark, Storm, if people still remember it. It was in that whole distributed computing space became became more and more relevant, and also was at the same time very dynamic, expanding vastly across, challenging the traditional technology stacks. And that created a lot of confusion, at the same time created the opportunity because of the information asymmetry of these powerful technologies, creating opportunities for customers. However, that adoption of that technologies were relatively slow in the beginning, and assessments were looked as, okay, I can take it, I would like to understand, but the adoption was kind of a little bit more delayed. It was not as fast as it could be. But in the past 2 years, from changes in the industry, what I'm noticing is there's a rapid acceleration of cloud adoption across industries, even to the extent of financial uh, industry, where regulation kind of uh, impedes adoption of new technology in many ways because of all the checks and balances that have to be done. Um, But with the cloud, which is constantly redefining architectures and creating new opportunities, customers are really moving very quickly and expanding their horizon by adopting the cloud. And that brings us to their real keen, what do you call, interest in understanding their legacy assets even more from that perspective as to how they could uh, migrate to the cloud, how they could adopt cloud better and expand their opportunities quickly. At the same time, there is that apprehension in the always this risk behind in the back of their minds of success, right? Because again, cloud is again a new environment. Though it has a lot of similarities with the legacy environments, it does provide a lot of existing capabilities that customers anticipate, but at the same time it also opens up a lot of new areas. And if you know what you have today and know where you're going, it really can be a world of difference from a transformation perspective. And from that objective, customers are more, I would say, uh, keen on doing detailed assessments of their environments with the cloud in perspective, and uh, quickly uncovering the right strategy for
Yeah,
themselves.
excellent insight. It's also interesting to me that early on, and we've been doing this for a number of years, as of course you know, and I say that for the benefit of our audience. Early on, people would come to us and say, "Well, can you help us lift and shift?" And we would have to actually convince them that lift and shift alone is not what you want to do. And of course, today it's all about transformation. And as we began to show them how to transform their traditional RDBMS workloads, pretty soon they started to say, well, gee, if you can do that for my traditional EDW RDBMS stack, can you also help me transform my ETL stack? Can you also help me transform my analytics area, modernizing applications like SAS and so forth? So it's really, frankly, been an exciting journey for us in seeing some of those changes develop. Given the scope of what we do today, to create a clear roadmap, to give them solid estimates of the effort, and to reduce risk, what are some of the important things, considerations that you think each enterprise should go through before they take on an assessment?
There are some definitely key considerations, I would say. That's actually a very good question, Larry. And I see this with a lot of customers of the varying degrees of preparation as they embark on these projects, and as we are trying to help align their strategy. One of the key features I feel that we see across and is enrolling their incumbent teams towards that transformation, having a clear communication strategy internally with respect to the transformation, because based on uh, the communication strategy and the enrollment, the readiness of their teams is impacted greatly, and their willingness to also embark on their transformation, and that really will make the overall journey very smooth. Of course, making sure all their information artifacts in order um, as they're thinking about a transformation project, getting into the assessment stage as a precursor. Clearly identifying success criteria of their transformation projects provides a good guideline for assessment. That kind of will save their teams or a vendor partner that they engage for that assessment activity to not go into rabbit holes, but be more effective in analyzing the key important pieces of information ahead. Also, depending on motivations for transformation, if decommissioning is one of the goals, thinking ahead of a decommissioning strategy at some level prepares them better for the outcomes of the assessment, because there are always these hidden dependencies which may not be apparent on the surface, or depending on the age of the uh, legacy assets that are being considered for transformation or migration. They might find things which may be impediments from that perspective. So identifying those ahead of time helps. Also, from a people perspective, identifying roles for incumbent teams ahead of time, which again goes into enrolling them as well as um, getting them prepared, training needs for their incumbent teams, things of that nature, and also and technology choices. These are some of the key items I would say having thought through as a considerations ahead of time can really minimize the risk and get the customers prepared for a transformation project very well. Also, I would say aligning core goals of the transformation is also very important. And some of the options to think about could be, whether they're thinking about move and improve kind of an approach, or are they thinking about refactor and consolidate, or are they looking about complete redraw and re-architect the whole future transformation. So depending on that, these strategies can be aligned, and assessments can start looking and collecting all the necessary, I would say, the building blocks for an effective roadmap.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. That's a great description of some of the strategy objectives and alignment inside the organization that they would want to have in place prior to embarking on an assessment. And I can see that having the automated assessment outputs and support that you and your organization and the tooling itself provides could be a wonderful way to support all of that. Any final comments you want to make, Hadi, before we close our podcast today?
Larry, I would say these transformation projects are definitely have a big challenge of the unknown, right? Though there are these new environments that customers are consistently looking to adopt, especially in the cloud space. It's being a dynamically evolving space, providing more and more capabilities every day. There has to be a healthy balance of incremental transformation that they should keep into perspective, and realistic expectations that there are challenges that cloud technologies bring to the forefront. However, one of the I would say most important thing as customers embark on this transformation project is selecting a right partner who has a proven track record of delivering successful transformations in the target environment that they're choosing to go. The partner should bring a good mix of technology know-how, then a good strong engineering DNA, which is very important. And even better than that, or the most important part would be also bring a healthy dose of innovation and creative ways of solving some challenges that are kind of unknowns in the new environments, which is very, very important for the success of these transformation projects and meeting the objectives of a transformation that the customer might be looking for. And I think that's something where we have been very successful and have been able to prove again and again in a lot of these legacy transformation projects. So I would definitely mention that.
Thank you again, Hadi, for the valuable insights, and thank you to our listeners today. I trust you found this to be quite useful. If you do have further questions, you can write to us at podcast@impetus. It's impetus.com, podcast@impetus.com, and we'll be sure that our expert panel follows up with you to attend to that. And thank you all again today for joining us. Have a great remainder of your day.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to follow us and stay connected as we help you create an intelligent, data-driven future. You can also look us up on LinkedIn and Twitter, or visit our website, www.impetus.com. Meanwhile, we hope you take good care of yourself and stay safe during these unprecedented times. Thank you for listening, and watch this space for our next episode.